Welcome to What's on Your Bookshelf, a life and leadership podcast where we live out loud the pages of the books that are on our shelves, with your hosts, Denise Russo and Sam Powell.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of What's on Your Bookshelf. This is our life and leadership podcast where we're living out loud the pages of the books that are on our bookshelf. This is a super important book that we've taken off of our shelf and put into our life. My name is Denise Russo. I'm here with my friend and co-host Sam Powell, and the book is The Joy at Work. Sam, I know this is sort of like work for us to do this show, but it never feels like it because it's always so joyful to be together with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good one. I'm excited about today's topic because I was surprised to find it in the book. And I was mad at myself for being surprised to find in this book because this is something that I talk to people about all the time. And so this chapter that we're going to talk about today is tidying decisions. And because I talk to people who are mid-career, right? This is like the busiest time of life, right? You got all the million things, family obligations, if you have kids, if you have a partner, if you've got whatever. Like this is the time where like you're busy, 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 busy. And you make thousands of decisions in a day. And so I always talk about like, how do you lessen that burden? How do you lighten the load of the decisions that you have to make? How do you pre-make some decisions so that you're saving that like mental energy? And so it was funny because when I turned to this chapter, I was like, oh, tiny decisions is interesting. And I was like, no, it's not, Sam. Like this should be in here. I'm so glad this is in here. It just like makes me like love this book even more because this is so important and people don't recognize it because we make so many decisions like easily throughout the day and we just don't realize the impact that it has on us.
Do you remember this a few years ago where there was this big to-do articles about how Barack Obama and Mark Zuckerberg only wear the same color shirt every day?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And the reasoning behind it was that they wanted one less decision in doing that. I remember years ago, both of my kids were in a charter school for a short period of time. And then they were in a public school that was trying to adopt some of the practices of the charter school, like making uniforms be mandatory, but was really like you could go to Walmart or Target, but you can only buy these 3-color polo shirts that are the colors of the school and that. And at first, the girls, of course, were always the most resistant because they didn't want to be wearing boy polo shirts and khaki pants or skirts. And as a mom, man, it was a lot easier.
So nice. I was always the kid who argued in favor, like when you would do like debate or whatever in school. I was always the one who chose debating for things because I was like, I'm just not that into like fashion. Like that's not how I need to express myself. And so like for me, it was all benefit. If there was all upside to like somebody else tells me what to wear, sounds good. We all have to show up that way. Lovely. One less thing I can sleep in a little bit more.
So you think about all the decisions you have to make like that at home, right? You're a mom, you're a spouse, you're a coach. You are also a sports coach and a life coach and a business coach, and you've got all these networking things that you're a part of. How many decisions are you making just at home? And now you put on top of that all the decisions that you have to make it work. Now, if you take a people leadership role, please know you are taking a role to make good decisions on behalf of the lives of other people. So I really think that this is not part of this chapter, but something that I hope comes later on, which is the decision of making the decision to lead people if you just were somebody who was a good individual contributor versus being somebody who understands the principles of leading.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that people underestimate about leadership is that you are upping significantly the number of decisions you have to make in a day. And when I say leadership, I don't just mean at work. Like when you decide to be a parent, you are now a leader of little people, right? Like, and so you are upping the number of decisions that you have to make on behalf of other people. And those stakes feel higher, right? Especially people who want to be good leaders, want to be good parents, right? Because we care about the impact of what we do on other people. And so not only are we signing up for making 10x time, number of decisions, we are also raising the stakes of those decisions and the impact that that has on you as far as just like mental load is concerned, psychological load, emotional load is significant, right? And like it's why that joke exists of like, the heart, like when it's always about like two spouses debating over like what to have for dinner. And it's like, oh, I don't care. Oh, I don't care. I don't care. And the only thing that really is decision fatigue. It's the decision you're making about something that's like, I just need sustenance at the end of the day, and I just don't care. And it's
Yeah.
because you've made, 7,342 decisions up to that point, and one more that causes you more effort feels like too much, right? And so that's why I think this chapter is so important because it's like let's take inventory of the decisions we make in a day. Let's figure out how we can categorize them. Let's figure out how we can get rid of some, how we can pre-decide others, how we can save the energy and the space for the ones that really truly matter.
Yeah, this chapter talks about how there are things that don't matter that you have to make decisions on. So one of the things it doesn't really talk about, but I think is important for us to share, is that if you have a decision and then you delegate the decision, you have now added more decisions to another person's plate of decisions. So just be careful about giving somebody else your laundry, basically.
Mhm.
And so
Be
I
smart
like your
about it.
exactly that little cartoon you're talking about. That is my life. Okay, so I'll
Everybody's
say,
life.
oh
That's
my
why we
gosh.
that's why we all laugh about it, right? Because we're like, yep, I deal with that every day.
So I've had to kind of tweak it myself. So and I know this book is about work, but I'll give you this example from life. Is I might say to the kids, okay, we're going to go out to dinner today because I don't feel like cooking. Do you want Mexican? Do you want American? Do you want Italian? Do you want Japanese? Do you want Chinese? Do you want whatever, right? That's too many things for them to decide
Yeah.
on because they will always say, oh, well, I don't care. And I'll say, all right, we're going to go to XYZ restaurant. Well, I don't want to go there. I just asked you and you said you didn't care. So now I've tweaked it to say, like, what do I want? So I might say, tonight, do you want to go out to dinner for Italian food at Nonna Maria's? Now it's a very clear
It's a yes or no
question.
decision, right?
Yes
Yes or
or
no is
no?
much easier.
Yeah. And so she talks about in the book, these are things at work, like, do you really care what brand copy paper you have? If you do care, then make the decision quick and just order that on repeat. We have in this office I'm working in right now, there's like the regular coffee pot and then the fancy coffee, an espresso fancy. And in an espresso coffee pot, there's like 5 different rows of different colored coffees. It's all I can do to just look at that box on the right-hand side every day and think to myself, I wonder which one I should try today. But I'm the kind of person that likes variety. So going back to the restaurant thing, I went to lunch yesterday with one of the people that was there for those conferences I told you I was a part of. And we were just talking because it was the first time I had met this person. And so we're getting to know each other and stuff. And it got our turn to be able to order. I had no idea. And so the lady says, well, do you need me to come back? And I was like, nope, 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 because we're on a time crunch here.
Yeah.
Have to get back to work. And so what I have found has been fun for me every time I go to dinner now is I put that decision on the server and they seem to be like excited about it because I'll say, what is if you could only pick one thing, what is your favorite thing on this side of the menu and your favorite thing on that side of the menu or whatever? And every time they tell me this story about, well, why is
Yeah.
that one thing their favorite? And as long as it's not something that grosses me out, then I'll just be like, all right, well, give me that. Or I might say, what's something that's not on the menu that the chef has as a favorite? And it's fun if you can experience life in a way where one, you didn't have to make the decision, and two, you're understanding that the decision that was made for you was almost made out of this sense of care or love because it was a decision somebody else put into it. And
Yeah.
that same thing can apply to work as well when you allow other people to make some decisions that maybe matter to them more than they matter to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I do the same thing. I recently did that a couple weeks ago. The NFL draft was in Pittsburgh, and so we went down to all the activities and stuff, which was one super super cool experience. But my son got really hungry, and so we stood in this line for French fries and all sorts of stuff. And as we're standing there in this very long line with a million people like waiting and slowly moving to the front, next like two stalls over is like iced coffee. And I watched person after person walk away with like these beautiful, like gorgeous, iced coffee drinks. And I like, by the time we were done with the line, I was like, I'm getting one of those. Like I was standing here for 20 minutes watching people get these coffees look delicious and it's hot. And so I walked over and like they only had three choices.
Ah,
But I still was like, I don't know. And so I just asked the girl, I was like, which one's the best, right? Like, to
yeah.
you, which one's the best? And she told me, she was like, oh, this one's new. It's specifically for this event. Like, it's whatever. And she was like, it lit her up to like talk about this thing because I'm
Right.
sure she had tried all of them. If I worked there, I would have tried all of them. And so I was like, okay, sounds good. It was delicious, absolutely delicious. It kind of tasted like caramel popcorn in a latte, but like lovely. But yeah, it like you said, like sometimes when you can have that conversation about a decision with somebody, it really can light them up. And so when you find the right things to delegate in the right ways, it can actually just establish like a really lovely connection with somebody, right? A really lovely especially if you're a leader, like a lovely empowerment moment of like, hey, this whole bucket of decisions, they're yours now, right?
Yeah.
Like you do it. And sometimes that could be a burden if you do it incorrectly, but a lot of times when you do it right, it feels like opportunity and empowerment and building up somebody else's skills. Like one of my favorite leaders that ever reported to me, I have a lot of leaders that I love that reported to me, but one of the people who's in the top 10 for sure, maybe less than that. He took over all of the hiring for my team. I had to delegate because I was going on maternity leave. And he did such a good job with it. And it was so lovely to have him take all these decisions, based on criteria we'd all come up with together, we'd agreed on, like, and hand this whole bucket of like, that's a lot of decisions. Like when you're hiring people for the team, and it's something I care about deeply, who shows up on this organization, who, supports our customers, who do we work with every day? Like it was one of my top priorities. But to find somebody you trust enough to delegate that big whole bucket of stuff to was incredible. And it was such a good development opportunity for him. Like he hadn't led organizations a lot. And now like it's part of his every single day job in like a whole different type of role. And like it's just amazing. Like it's one of these things that's like sometimes when you can find these buckets of a whole bunch of decisions, you can hand them over. But Scott talks in this chapter about kind of the three types of decisions, like high stakes, medium stakes, low stakes. And so when you're thinking about all the decisions that you have to make at work, right? Like if you're doing this exercise, do not do work and life together. Like, for heaven's sakes, that will be way too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Separate them out and tackle one side at a time. But when you're thinking about all of the things at work, thinking about putting them into the high stakes, medium stakes, low stakes categories, right? Like I think really helps you get a grasp on then what do I do with that, right? Because he talks about like low stakes things or things you just like forget about them. Like these are just like you said, make them fast, make them quick. It doesn't matter. It's not going to make a big difference which kind of copy or paper we use, what kind of things. Like move them off of your way. Like don't let them sit there. Don't let them drag out. Don't let them, nag in the back of your mind. Get them done so that you can spend time on the high stakes, medium stakes stuff.
He even puts it in bold in the book, which is not frequent in this book. So this,
No.
I think, made him say, this is something important. Hello, red lights are flashing. If making a decision is critical for the work you do, if it will help you advance your work-life vision for the future, or if it sparks joy, then keep it. Otherwise, again, trash it. I think this is very hard sometimes to do this if you are an executive or if you're quote busy without a coach. I'll give you an example. I was coaching this
Mm-hmm.
senior level person recently, and always start my sessions by saying, what's going to be the most and good use of your time today? And it's on that person to decide how are we going to invest our time together. And so he had said, well, I'm really struggling with the productivity of person X and person Y. Well, as it started to get untangled throughout our session together, what really was the problem, which we've talked about 5 whys and root cause analysis and getting deeper, is that it really wasn't about those two people's productivity. It was about an issue that he had with their leader. And so the decision ended up being, and it took us almost 45 minutes to get to the actual decision that was never part of what's going to be the best use of your time. The decision that came out of solving the problem was for him to decide in that moment that he was going to make a high stakes decision, book a flight, and physically and in person go talk to this person, as opposed to just shooting off an angry email or even having a Zoom call, so that he could retain the relationship with that person, but address this deeper problem that has to be solved. If you have a coach, that is something that is easier to do with a coach than not with a coach, because making decisions inside your own head when you're dealing with a lot of other things, you might just be making the surface decisions, like we were talking about the idea of the golf balls and the sand and the pebbles in the jar. And if you're really going to focus on the most important decisions, sometimes it's not the first thing you say is the decision. It's something below that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I think getting out of your mind with somebody, like getting out of your own perspective and having somebody who challenges you in that is really helpful. I've been struggling a lot with some big decisions about like my business and work and, what am I doing? I'm kind of at this inflection moment of like some things are rubbing, some things aren't working for me and like really what I'm trying to do. And so it's putting me like, I think I wrote about this on Substack a couple weeks ago. Like I'm in like a mid-career crisis and like I kind of like it, but it's this inflection point for me of like I need to make some of these high stakes decisions, right? These are trajectory kind of decisions. These are really big things. And I'm in a year-long program that's like a business building, systems building program. And I have a coach who's running that. And then I have a coach that I've had for the last 3 years who's helped me build in a lot of spaces, and he really gets me ahead. And so like I brought this program to both of them. I was like, guys, I'm so sorry. Like this is gonna sound crazy because I'm kind of thinking of like blowing everything up, but like I need to work through this and having people to bounce this off of, right? And like the two perspectives has been lovely, but like having that coach who's sitting across the table asking all those deep questions, asking you the right things that get you past that surface level. Like, I think I want to do this. And it's like both of them were like, tell me why. Like, what's the thought? What's the feeling? And then challenging those like thoughts. Is this really what's going on? Is it this or is it this, right? Is it those kinds of things that helps you settle down into like, oh, this is what this is. And then the decision becomes so much clearer. So like when we're talking these high stakes moments, that's what you want to have like somebody helping you with, right? And have somebody helping you think through, is this really it? Or am I reacting to something else and, making a decision in a different way? So yeah, I agree. I mean, you and I being coaches, we of course have, we think coaching is very valuable, but being somebody who's been coached by a lot of coaches, I've been coached by you, I've been coached by multiple other coaches throughout my career in a bunch of different phases and structures and setups. And they're having a partner in high stakes decisions is an incredible thing to have. And they don't actually talk about that in this book all the time, right? They're talking about tidying choices and things like that. But like I would have written a whole section in this high stakes area about like getting a friend to help you do it.
You are going to be a success story in this next part, which is about what you just shared, that the impact of having a coach is, which is about that more options aren't always better. And I recall that a few years ago, I was talking to my coach, and she was saying, was in transition because we had left our jobs and we're looking for what we wanted to do next. And she said, Denise, your resume is like a winding road, and it's a smorgasbord of things that you've done and places you've been and experiences you've had. But that makes the decision really hard on a recruiter. What can we do to simplify? And I actually, in some ways, was very resistant to the cleanup, because I thought if I clean this one part up, then I won't be visible to an opportunity in this one other way. And so we had to get down to brass tacks of what is it that I
Yeah.
really thought would bring me joy at work.
Yeah.
And I decided that the thing that would bring me the most joy at work was to kind of go into something that would blend together all of my past experiences, but how to tell that story in one unified storyline, even though we're talking about multiple industries that now have come together. And the project I'm working on right now is serendipitously a perfect blend of 25 years of lots of different kinds of jobs. But the point being, and where I want to get back to what you're going through right now, is you've made a decision or are in the process of making a decision to do something similar, which is I know my client base that will bring me the most joy. I know the thing that I believe will give them the most effort for or the best results for the effort they put into it. Now the how is the next part, and therefore the coach can help you map out the how to get there. And so in the book it talks about how you might have a lot of choices, and that can be a good thing, but it's only to a certain point, because having a lot of choices doesn't really help you to be able to look at something that you could take action on. It's kind of like you have all these
Yeah.
choices in front of you, so then you get stuck. You were talking about like decision paralysis,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get nothing done.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a ton of psychology behind all of this too, of like we more choice doesn't help us, right? More options doesn't help us. And what you just described, like with your resume and things like that is all day long for me. That's the conversation I have. Like people come to me saying, "Oh, I need to update my resume because I want to find a new job." Like that's why they show up on my doorstep. But the work that we do is all of the decisions and things that lead to being able to create a resume that's got a cohesive storyline. And the people who struggle that I work with are the people who won't make decisions on a direction. And it's this fear of like, will I close a door that I want to do, right? What if I miss out? What if the grass is really green over here and I'm standing over in this other pasture? And it's all this what if, what if, what if, what if, what if, and you can spend your entire life on what if island and never get anywhere. And it's in making a decision and taking a step forward. And the thing I don't think people realize or like don't grasp when they're struggling with decisions, and he says at the end is like good enough is like good enough for most decisions, right? Like make the decision, you'll feel relief, and then cut off everything else, at least for a period of time. Like this is what I tell people, like find the next job that you want to do. We don't have to cut off every option for you for all eternity, but let's go down the path that you think is going to bring you the most joy, the path that's going to really get you where you want to go, that fits all the criteria, that does whatever. Let's go pursue it for a period of time and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, which usually it does, right? Like if it doesn't for some reason, or if you go down the road and you learn something more that then makes you want to cut this path off and do a different one, no big deal. Like we know we have the skills, we know how to do it, we know how to make the pivot. But the people who struggle and who languish in roles, in jobs, in job search are the ones who will not make decision because they never close the door on all the decisions that are out there in the world. They leave all the what ifs open, and that path is only misery. That what if island is a miserable place to live for a long period of time. And he, like he says, good enough is good enough here. And just roll with it. You'll make the best out of it. You'll figure it out. You'll find the thing. But if you don't make the decision, you don't go anywhere.
I have a really very, very, very good old time friend that called me up the other day, and she's devastated because she's had like a major life change in her personal relationship with someone and also the work relationship because they worked together and other.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about, she was just calling me as a friend and wanting to have somebody's shoulder to cry on, basically. And the conversation was like, I'm not good at anything. I don't have purpose. I'm never going to find another job. Those are not, none of those things are true. And so, in the course of talking with her and just listening and being present, sometimes you just have to let the person be able to get it all out because maybe that's all they want and need. But I asked her, what is it that you want from me or that I can best help you because I love you? And she said, well, like basically in so many words, I know you're a coach. And then I was like, well, I'm not a life coach and I'm not a therapist. I am a business coach. So if you want to talk about how to clean up your mental mess and your business mess, then let's talk about that. And so she said, all right, I'm up for that. If we do another time together where you just walk me through how to get me out of this state of that good is good enough or that I'm ever going to be good enough for something else. And so we ended up, Sam, going back to the earlier part of our call today about Ikigai. And we mapped out just talking out loud, like, tell me about the things that you're really good at and that you like doing, and what are the kinds of people that you want to be around, and what would make you feel like at the end of the day if what you're doing actually matters and it's fulfilling to you. And as we did that, and it didn't feel like this rigid coaching session, it was just talking about these things to gather intel. And at the end, I said to her, is it possible that this one thing that you're good at, that you like doing, that there's people that actually do that for a living? And she ended up starting to make this list of all the ways that she could look for entrepreneurial roles as well as full-time roles doing some of those things. And Sam, the very next morning, she texted me to just say, it was good to catch up and everything like that. But she said, I wanted to tell you what I've done. And she went through this whole list of accountability. And here's the thing, she didn't owe me anything. But sometimes people get better results when they feel accountable to somebody else than to their self. And that's, again, in closing, why it's so beneficial to have a coach. Because in this case, here was a person who was stuck emotionally, stuck mentally, stuck literally physically, was what needed to get unstuck and didn't know really that they did know how to get unstuck, because everything the person came up with was their own idea. Coaches don't give you the ideas, they just help pull it out of you. And she came up with all these ideas, and now she's on a really solid and incredibly interesting path forward, where when you're going through things like grief or trauma on top of making decisions about work.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That really is the power of like sitting down with somebody who's trained to help you, untangle all of that mess and move forward, because it's hard to do this by yourself. It's hard when you get, especially when there's big emotions involved, big fears involved. It is really, really hard to make the decisions and move forward, but it is the path that leads you to peace and joy every single time. You've got to make the decisions, and tidying up the decisions you make in a day, right? Getting rid of the little ones, figuring out how to fit in the medium ones, and then really having the time for the high stake ones makes such a huge difference in your decision making ability and just how happy you are in your work life overall.
Next week's going to be a tough one because we're going to move away from cleaning up your email, cleaning up your inbox, cleaning up your bookshelf, cleaning up your decisions. Next week, we're going to be talking about tidying up your network. And I don't know what the exact science is behind this, but you've heard the thing about you're the product of the 6 people you hang around, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
There, it's harder to clean up the people that are around you, especially if you work with them and you can't do anything about it. But sometimes the people that are around you, I had a mentor one time, and we'll dive deeper into this next week, that talked about this. And I'm really looking forward to talking with you about it, because when we think about the people that we have around us, how really big does your network have to be, especially in the age of social media where everybody wants likes and shares of people that don't really matter. Again, if life is short and we evaluate who we have around us and the contacts we have and who do you need to know that you don't know, that's what we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It should be an interesting chat.
Yep, looking forward to it as well. But for today, my name is Denise Russo. On behalf of my friend Sam Powell, it's been a pleasure being here with you today on this episode of What's on Your Bookshelf.